What's up, guys? Hope you're doing all right out there. We we did this podcast and it was all over the place. We originally had came in, like him and I, like Eugene and I will typically plan out on Sundays what we're going to talk about. We were like, okay, let's talk about gym reopening, and because a lot of the states are beginning to move into those new phases, and we got kind of the rules and stuff that we could open by, and then it ended up turning into like this rant about politics and stuff. And so again, enjoy the episode, but this one's like all around the coronavirus and all this stuff. There was one positive message that does come out towards the end, which I share, but again, if you want to hear some off the wall rambles, some tangents and stuff like that, this is in the episode for you. If not, if again you're not like, I don't want to hear about the damn coronavirus anymore, it's on my nerves, I understand. So we recorded a second episode for you where we're going to talk about martial arts movies. So you can listen to both of them or you can listen to that one. You make your choice. So I'll let you decide. But if you're going to stick around, I'm going to tell you about some sponsors. We've got Charlotte's Web is one of our sponsors. We always have them on here. Eugene and I take their products. We enjoy them. And so we brought them on as a sponsor, especially for me dealing with, again, I don't know about everybody else, but I don't, because I'm not training right now, one, my level of like energy just doesn't get zapped as much as possible. So to sleep better, I take a little bit of CBD at night, and it helps me out a lot. It helps me relax. And also, again, when it first started, and I'm not so bad now, but when it first started, I was completely out of sorts, and there was a lot of anxiety there, and it just kind of helped promote a little bit of more calmness in me. And so again, CBD is wonderful. It's to me, it's been kind of a clutch thing to have during this whole time. So you guys can check their stuff out, charlottesweb.com. You can use promo code Jiu-Jitsu. Again, I like their stuff, and that's why they're on this podcast, and that's why they're a sponsor. The other sponsor that we have is Epic Roll BJJ. If you guys have watched any of my recent Jiu-Jitsu videos, you've probably seen the shirt that I've had on, and a lot of people love the shirts, so again, you can check those out at Epic Roll BJJ and use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu. Along with the normal sort of t-shirt stuff, he also has rash guards and gis and stuff. We gave away a free gi at one of our recent episodes and stuff like that.
Episode 100.
That's right. And so again, you can check his stuff out. Matt makes some cool gear, some fun gear, and that's at epicrollbjj.com. And then, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, there's a couple ways you can do it. One, you can go to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. It's where we put a bunch of podcast extras. We film extra podcasts that never get released. We put videos up there and a lot of extra content. And again, all that money goes to support the podcast so we can keep making shows for you and try to, again, slowly increase the production quality. Although we got like the good mics and everything else. We're doing it. We're doing it. So if you guys want to support it, you can check it out and get some stuff in there. And again, you sign up for it. It's a monthly thing. There's no obligation to maintain it. Keep it as long as you like. But you can check it out at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
23 1/3 penny.
23 1/3 penny a day.
A day.
So for less than a quarter, you can get, I know that's what I did in the last episode, right? For less than a quarter, you can hang out with us and you can hear. We literally have hundreds of, well, I won't say hundreds, but we have over 100.
We're close.
We're well over 100.
Well, each episode at least has a post,
and then we make extra posts too.
And there's extra posts.
There's some videos.
And there's
there
extra
too.
podcasts.
And there's a seminar that we posted up there.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
There's if your back hurts, there's stuff on there. If you want to learn how to stretch out or do a cool down after jiu-jitsu, Master Chewy is on there.
It's the best quarter you could spend.
The best quarter
you could spend.
You could spend it on getting like that gum, like the gumball thing that only lasts for maybe like the flavor lasts like 10 seconds.
That's right.
Or you can get a quarter that'll last you all day
for less than a
gumball.
For less than a price of a really big fancy schmancy latte with all the stuff on it, you could join the Patreon for jiu-jitsu. So I'm just letting you know that. And then guys, one last thing. I haven't really talked about this too much on the podcast that much, but I get a lot of messages from people. People don't know that I do it, but so every Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends too, but mainly Monday through Friday, I send out an email. The email could be everything from a jiu-jitsu tip, it could be me talking about a troll, that I got trolled by. It could be something completely unrelated and just kind of an idea or perspective to share. But whatever, I send a email every day, Monday through Friday. So again, if you want to check that out, if you want to get on that email list, and also you get some free ebook resources. I've got a drilling ebook plus a game plan ebook that'll show you how to make your own jiu-jitsu game plan with a video. If you want to get that stuff, you can go to my website, chewjitsu.net, and you can click on the free ebook, put in your email address. You'll get those resources and you'll get the emails from me. And again, if you get them and you're like, Chewy, I don't like these emails suck, you can keep the ebooks and you can always unsubscribe. But if you like the emails, which most people do, you can just kind of hang out with me. And again, that's where I sort of do my daily correspondence. And typically, if you're trying to get a hold of me, that's the best place to do it most often.
I like free stuff.
Yeah,
There's cool free stuff that you have.
Free stuff.
Who doesn't like free stuff?
So, with all that said, guys, let's jump into this podcast and get started. What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, I figured we would talk about, because in Kentucky right now, we're getting ready to move into all the phases where we can eventually begin to open gyms back up, fitness centers, as they call them. We are slated to, in Kentucky, with our fitness centers, to be able to open on June the 1st, Monday, June the 1st. Mm-hmm. And so I figured what we would do is we would kind of talk about I'm going to talk about some of the things that I'm planning on doing and some of the difficulties about opening back up. But I also wanted to sort of even talk about the philosophical idea of, opening back up and what that even means, because for a lot of people that can mean some different things depending on how you feel about this whole thing. And I make no judgment about whether you think this is Armageddon and the worst thing ever, or if you think it's just nothing, right? Or if you're somewhere in between like me. Again, I make no judgment, but I do want to talk about it because I think it's something that's on everyone's mind. I used to get messages about training. I used to get message about jiu-jitsu techniques and all that stuff. Now, almost every time I get a message on Instagram or wherever, I get a message about, hey, Chewy, when we open back up, what do you think about X? What do you think about Y? Or, that kind of thing. So I figured we would just kind of chat with it. I know that, probably most people are sick about this damn coronavirus, and I'm personally ready for this thing to be over. Because, it's funny, every time I open up the internet, there's some good posts and stuff, but then there's just all this nasty negativity, people being so aggressive with one another, even though no one really knows what the hell's going on, right? But everybody being very aggressive and mean towards each other, and it's I can't wait till this thing's over, because, people are it's so funny. It's you could take this time that you have, this extra time that's on your hands now, and you can take it towards learning something, learning a new skill, reading some books, working on other things. I've been busy as hell during this whole time, right? Do something else, do something constructive, and then instead you see people just all over the internet, blah, 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 just super angry, and it's just a waste of time. But anyway, we're going to talk about that whole thing, and hopefully we won't have too many more episodes that have anything to do with the coronavirus on the channel.
Well, maybe we'll have something about the coronavirus, but just how it's impacted people in a good way, how it's brought people together, or made training a little bit that much sweeter. I think we have had some time to really, sit back and let everything kind of settle in and figure out what does jiu-jitsu even mean to a lot of us? How much we miss it now.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't realize it. Maybe we took it for granted. Maybe we didn't train quite as seriously. But I think all that, you got to have fun at training, but also if you want to get decent at it, you got to really have a purpose when you train. Yeah. So, I don't know. We're probably a couple weeks away from the fitness centers per se opening. And Chewy, you don't have to speak specifically, but how do you see that going once we can open up? What do you anticipate, or what would you like to see even?
Yeah, so the other day, I was lifting weights last Thursday, and when I got done lifting weights, I went back to my phone, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 it's being hit up by text messages. June 1st, June 1st, June 1st, and I was like, what the hell is June 1st? And I looked, and the governor had said June 1st, fitness centers open. So all of my students were like, is that us? Is that us? But there's a lot of, in the language that is used related to fitness centers, there's a lot of ambiguity. There's not, it's like suggested stuff, but there's not a lot of hard line. This is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And it's just with them sort of still continuing, at least in Kentucky, I don't know about other places, there is not at this point an outline of when you can do and again, Kentucky has not been hit hard, compared to other states, we're pretty low on the totem pole. Now, again, I don't want it to be hit hard. I don't want that to happen. But I'm just saying it's one of those things where, again, like you look at places like New York and Seattle maybe, but then compare them to like what we have. It's like it's not even the same thing. And I think treating them the same thing is not maybe. I just don't think it makes any sense to me personally. But again, I'm an idiot, so what do I know? But no. So looking at it, and then when you see the verbiage used, I mean, if we were to follow the guidelines, jiu-jitsu would probably be dead. I mean, at least for almost a year or something, because people are acting like you can't do anything with close contact for another year, right? Or until we have a vaccine, which, I mean, God, that might be a year to 18 months. And then what if the virus mutates, right? Like some viruses do. We don't know. Here's the thing. Everybody, like all the talking heads in the media want to act as if they know what's going on. And then people follow that stuff blindly. But the reality is we have no frigging clue what's going on. And then you see people that like next door neighbors, people that are in the same socioeconomic level are being fed something from up top. Yeah. And then these people are fighting. It's like, you guys shouldn't fight with each other. You should fight with those guys up there. It's like, because these are the guys that are making the policies that are like, like where we don't have enough testing or, where your businesses are being shut down. It's not you two, right? But anyway, off topic. But my thing about it is like going into it, I think people maybe have to think about this moving forward, because right now in most places, not everywhere, but in most places, the verbiage used is basically means no jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu's gone, right? And a lot of other things are gone until the powers that be decide that, oh, you can do that now. Now that we are going to finally allow that, right? And I get it. Maybe there's something to it. But the thing is again, everything that we do in life has inherent risks. Even jiu-jitsu itself has inherent risks. I mean, you have injuries, you have staph infections and ringworm and all these other things, right? And so now there's another risk. What if this virus, right? Here's maybe a question to ponder on. If this virus never went away, what if it became like a reoccurring thing every year? Like, and again, maybe we have vaccines and stuff, but not everybody gets vaccines, right? Not everybody's going to get a vaccine. I mean, I've never even had a flu vaccine, Well, let's say the thing comes back around. When is risky too risky? Like, when is the risk too much risk? And again, I that's a question. And again, I know it's bad right now. And again, I'm not saying that. I don't want to sort of propose that you be cavalier about it and that you don't. There's no restrictions. I'll talk about some of the things I'm thinking about for the gym in just a minute. But I do think that, like, again, life is not without risks. You know what I mean? And I think that, I personally believe, and this is just me, I'm more of a freedom rather than a security guy. Because even like right now I was reading something, and I don't know enough about it, so I might be completely off base, but I was reading like a thing about the fact that some of the Patriot Act pieces or whatever are coming up for voting, right? So basically the thing that we voted in, or that got voted in back after 9/11, that got voted in, that gave the government massive surveillance abilities for us, right? And we just did it because we were afraid. Oh God, we got to do it, right? And then it expired and it got re-voted back in, even after like some of the guys that were on like the National Security Committee were like, hey, like you guys, like they were even talking about it. They couldn't talk about it, but they still were talking about it. Right. And so now we have a situation where then I think it's like where they said, and I don't know, I have to go look this up, so I might be completely off. But good old Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, our senator, he, I guess they were saying that he might be involved in a situation where they want to sort of increase those surveillance abilities to where they can basically, just like they collect all the phone data, they can collect all our search history data, like all our browsing search history. So a journalist or someone that maybe you don't like, whatever, you can just collect their search history.
So when you kind of type in your search and then you hit the backspace, they can see that.
I don't know. I think
they probably can.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Like they can see like what you type, but then you like don't hit send or don't hit search.
So I'm gonna have to do more research on it, because obviously this could be completely off base. But it was an article that was posted by another senator. You know what I mean? Like, so it was like, he was like, look what this guy's doing. I'm like, oh, that's not good. But anyway, yeah. I'll take a gander at it. But anyway, I think that you're in a situation now where, again, anytime people get afraid, like, stuff gets taken away. This goes back even, I'm a history geek, and this goes back to like Rome, right? When the Roman people were like friggin' dealing with civil wars and stuff, and they got fearful, that's when the Roman Empire became a thing, right? Like, so it's like, again, it's like then it became the empire, and then those people back then were even talking about it. You can talk about some of the histories of the Roman Empire. Some of them even looked at that security time as like, that's a good time. We don't have to deal with the Republic anymore. But later on, you saw the bad side of it when you got these crazy leaders in a dictatorial regime. And I'm not saying that we're becoming a dictatorship, and I'm not saying that, we're going to end up doing that. I'm just saying it's one of those things where, again, I think that people should have their freedoms rather than be taken away from them.
And it's a gradual thing, too. It's not going to be like all at once, just a little bit at a time. And it seems like, well, this is the quote-unquote new normal. Oh, yeah. Like, this is it. And then, like, the new normal's a little different, and then it's a little different. So, as far as, like you said, when is the risk too much, or when is it too risky even? I mean, I don't want to, you got people dying from anxiety or being depressed and having, issues with being withdrawn from other people. People are dying from that as well. People are dying probably of alcoholism or overdoses or whatever. So like, people are dying either way now. Like, I just want to say, I think that I don't want to sound like I'm cold and heartless, because again, I'm not like to the point. I'm not one of those people that's like, well, when I start opening my gym, we're just going to open up and have everybody train. I just think it's something to consider. Like, life is not without risk. It's like people that sometimes will say like, oh, I'm not training jiu-jitsu because risks. And to them, I'm like, like, you're going to die someday anyway. Like, and there's no way to, like, because people talk about injuries. I'm like, yeah. I was like, bro, do you know that you get broke? Like, I've met people that are 40 years old and never really done anything in their life. Their bodies are broken. 100%. I've met 40-year-olds that have, like, trained their face into the ground and they've got injuries, but they're doing okay. It's like, so, it's like one way or the other, you're going to go. So it's like, but to me, it's like you should have the right to decide how you want to do that. And again, I know there's a worry for spreading and stuff like that. But again, I think that we're doing these weird things where, like, you kind of scratch your head and you're like, you got 200 people out in the line at Home Depot, but then we can't have people doing workouts. Mm-hmm. I was like, that don't make any sense. You know what I mean? Because again, it's like if they're in there, everybody's in that place and the air's floating around. It's like, you know what I mean? Just to me, I scratch my head a little bit, and I just wonder, like, why is that one okay, but this one's not okay? Yeah, it's the inconsistency. It makes you wonder, like, what exactly, why is one versus another okay? Because I think for a lot of people, the gym is very, like we joke around. They said on one of the phases, they said church is opening, and so one of the guys, Rob, Rob goes, oh, so we're gonna be open, right? Because like some of us come in on Sundays, and it's like church, it's just like our get together time. It's our time to honestly, like, we bond.
Wasn't that funny? Like, you can have, like, in Kentucky, it's like churches, horse racing with no spectators, but they can have all the people in the backside horse racing.
It's Kentucky, baby.
It's like, it's like, well, who gets to decide, like, what? And that's the thing, I guess, maybe that bugs me, is like, it's not like up to the people to decide. It's up to these people. They get to decide what goes on, and I just think that's unfair, especially because, it is what it is, man. Like, a lot of small businesses and a lot of people, and maybe my view is clouded by the fact that I do have a small business.
Yeah.
That depends on people being there. And maybe I'm clouded by that, because maybe if I didn't, maybe I'd be like, well, no, we just need to stay home. But I don't think I would, just because of the way that I kind of view life. Because me personally, as far as my own financial income personally, I'm okay. But like, when it comes to the gym, I don't want the gym to fall. And if, for instance, if this thing was to go into play where they said, hey, basically, we don't know when anybody's ever going to be able to take a mask off, and when someone's going to be able to get past the quote new normal. You could say goodbye to gyms. You could say goodbye to jiu-jitsu. It ain't gonna be around.
So think about how many people are going to die because they're so unhealthy. We talked about that. Before we started the podcast, we were talking about, like, what can people do, like, to give themselves every opportunity to stay healthy. Yeah. When you do return to jiu-jitsu, when hopefully this shit blows over and we can get back to training, like, what can we do? So there are some things we can control, obviously, and taking away any kind of exercise, group exercise, or even like the camaraderie piece of it, it's going to really screw with people. All right, well, I can't exercise, so now I'm depressed. Now I'm going to go eat a bunch of food and, get down and get maybe diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever. Yeah. I'm just saying, it's kind of a dramatic explanation, but, like, gyms are really, to some they're very essential.
Super important.
They're very essential. They're part of our livelihood. It's kind of like to me, it comes down to quality of life. What's your quality of life? Like to be in your house all the time, is that quality of life? To be like sheltered from everything and fearful of every single individual that walks around you, that's not quality of life, man.
Yeah, if I was faced with a situation where I either had to stay in my house for the rest of my life, it was going to be the new normal, or I could train and just risk it. I'd risk it in a heartbeat. I'd rather risk death than like just sit around and be locked up. You know what I mean? Like you're in a prison. Like it's not the way that we're doing it. And again, this is kind of some people would. I know that there's some people listening just going, oh my God, Chewy, what an asshole. And this is just something that again, maybe if I was up in New York and saw it, maybe I would have a different tune.
Well,
but even I have friends up in New York, and they're like, "Man, I'm waiting to get back."
I think it depends on also like it doesn't have to look the same everywhere. Like we don't have to open up the same way everywhere. Like New York is obviously hit very, very hard. A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are sick. The hospitals are overwhelmed there. So maybe jiu-jitsu may fall a little bit down, at a later time. Maybe it's not as, because you don't want to make that situation worse. But it seems like that here we've leveled off. And there's other places. You can't just put a blanket statement, and everybody – one size does not fit all for everyone. I think that, okay, Chewy, say that, June 1st would come around. How would you structure? Let's move that way. Let's see like how you can structure maybe to minimize or decrease a risk of obviously there's always going to be a risk, but what do you think is going to be a good plan for you guys to do to keep people as safe as possible? Yeah,
ideally. So some of the things that we're looking at, one is we're looking into temperature checks for all the employees.
What about questionnaire? Would you guys do like maybe like I just thought of this, like if somebody walks in, like maybe they have to like put like answer like if you had a fever, kind of these things, maybe answer those things.
I'm not going to make someone do a questionnaire. I mean, if someone because we're probably not going to be taking new students right now, but if someone comes into the gym, I'm going to expect them, and this will just be made sort of blatantly aware, like, look, if you've been sick, if you're coughing, whatever, don't come in the gym. You shouldn't come in the gym anyway if those are things. And that might be a good thing to kind of take away from this. Like, because you see people that'll be like sniffling and stuff, and they come in the gym like, what are you doing here? Get out of here. But again, if you've got something going on, whatever, don't come in the gym. The problem with the virus, obviously, is because of the incubation period where you don't show any symptoms, or if you're asymptomatic, don't show any symptoms, and then you're spreading it to other people. Therein lies the main issue with the damn thing. But I would, for me, I would encourage people to get tested, right? Because you can get because they have the testing a little bit more available now. You can go get your antibody test or whatever. It's a little bit easier to get to now.
Do you know what benefit I mean, from your bro science point of view, like what's the? I mean, the antibody test just tells you if you've had it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're immune to getting it again, or they don't know?
They don't really know. I mean, that's the problem. There's so much unknown about the thing. That's why, again, when people talk about this thing as if they've got a handle on it, it's like nobody really has a handle on this thing. We don't know what's going on right now. And so again, it's one of those things where, I would encourage that, but again, mainly like if you had problems, don't come to the gym. And then the big thing is obviously we'll have to clean out between classes. We're getting some like new industrial like style cleaning stuff.
Just take the skin right off of you.
No, it's like it's mainly it's like the sprayer things that can like go across.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Do you have to mop it, or like is it a?
I forget. I don't know. Our gym manager, she's ordering it. It's like one that one of the guys in the gym, he like runs a professional cleaning service. Yeah. And he was like, "This is the one you want."
Awesome.
So we're getting that. But then beyond that, I mean, again, I'm not completely cavalier about this. I'm not completely like, oh, this is nothing at all, because I'm not one of those people. I don't think it's a conspiracy that's completely cooked up to, whatever. I just think it's one of those things where, I don't like people, and I think that people take advantage of situations. Yeah. Simple as that. That's what I really think. I mean, because again, it's like there's an old Theodore Roosevelt quote, which it was something like, "Never let a good crisis go unused." And I think that anytime something like that happens, people take advantage of it for whatever purposes they want, whether it be monetary or otherwise, to get some sort of gain. And I do think there's some of that. Yeah, just in my opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong. But beyond that, I do want to keep the classes small. And so, again, my idea in the proposal, so me and some other Kentucky gyms are working together to put a proposal together for the state, because we want to, because again, we were telling them, like, a lot of these gyms would go under. I mean, they would just, if we're supposed to be no touch till, like, August, September, or God knows when, till there's a vaccine. I mean, those gyms in Kentucky, they're gone, right? And I don't know if people appreciate that they're gone, because people are not going to be able to continue paying forever. I mean, people might be able to pay for a while, but those gyms won't be able to stick around. I mean, you can do some weight training and stuff maybe, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to operate in the capacity, and those gyms are going to be gone. I mean, even us, if we had to wait till a vaccine was there, like, I don't know that the gym would be around. It would just be gone. We'd have to move into a smaller space, because we couldn't be able to afford the space that we have now, and we wouldn't be able to maintain it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just something to think about if you're one of those people that are part of a gym. Now, going back around to it, keeping those classes small and basically putting people into specified groups, right? So like when you were in, like, kindergarten or school or whatever, right? You'd have your class with you, and you're always with that one class. Same thing, get a group of 10, give them 2 days a week that they can train. Here are your 2 days a week that you can train at this time, and then you give them those slots.
What about will you keep class times like the same? Like, will you say, like, classes are going to be limited to an hour or an hour and a half, or like maybe even like a strict? I think probably one thing we've done before, it's like, people kind of trickle in, just like maybe even have like a strict, this is class time, this is when it starts, this is when it ends.
I mean, this is the class time, and these are the people that can do this class.
Yep.
And these are the people that cannot, right? So basically, these 10 people can do it. Now, if that person got held up in traffic, they can trickle in, but understand it's a hard cutoff time at this time.
Gotcha.
Because we've got to get these other classes going, and we've got to have time to clean things up, and then we've got to have time to get these next classes in. You know what I mean? And so again, basically, that would be my idea of kind of opening things up, at least in the initial phase, right? Till we can, because again, the idea with the whole opening phases, right, is like, let's see what happens when we open these things up. Do the numbers begin to jump dramatically?
Right.
And another thing is, there's never been a talk about, well, when is too much, right? Like, when is the number too much to handle? Right, and I think that's a good. And I'm not. It's a weird, creepy thing to quantify, right? But again, anytime you set an objective, typically you want some sort of result that you can measure or compare, right?
Yeah.
So we're saying, well, if numbers increase, and again, there's so much like vagueness about it, where again the numbers are probably going to increase because people will spread,
Sure.
and as testing gets better, the more people get tested, the numbers will increase, right? Because they find more and more people are having the damn thing,
Sure.
that have no symptoms. So again, if the numbers increase, what does that mean exactly? And so when have they increased to the point where we're not okay with that? And when is it within range? And again, I'm sure the government probably has numbers that they're looking at, that they're like, these are the numbers that they're not sharing, because it's kind of a creepy thing to talk about with the public. Hey, if we lose X amount of people, we're willing to accept that, because then it sounds like you're okay with death, right? Which
or you don't value life,
right? You don't value life, which is not the case. It's just it's a reality of. I mean, I think about this all the time. Modern societies have become so disconnected with life cycles, right? We value youth, right? People will get plastic surgery, and you have these billionaires injecting young blood into themselves, right? Like, have you seen that?
Yeah. So they didn't. I know they did it in rats and stuff.
So you have this whole obsession with youth, right? As if you're going to somehow live forever. You hear people all the time, maybe someday we can live forever. Like, we're dying. We're going to die. This is what happens. Like we've been chasing this everlasting life thing since
Fountain of Youth,
since the Fountain of Youth, right? In Florida, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we've been chasing this thing for a long time. Ain't coming. Right, we're going to die.
I've been to the Fountain of Youth, by the way.
Have you?
Yeah. So my grandparents actually were living in Florida, Sarasota area, for like 15 years, and there was this like this, I guess, a sulfur spring or whatever, and it was, so they would literally bring these older people in there by busloads, because it had like all these all this stuff in the water, supposed to be really good
sulfur
for
and stuff like that.
Sulfur, and it smelled like rotten eggs. It was terrible. And so they would literally wheel these people in wheelchairs and like bring them on bus loads. Like they would do I think they did some not experiments, but like studies. Like they say, all right, well, you have all these conditions. Let's take you have to expose yourself to this water,
how it affects
and see if it affects you. And I'm sure it's good.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're getting some minerals and stuff. But I mean, I don't think it's the fountain of youth. So they lived there, and it was like really the temperature, the water was consistent every day, and I don't know. But anyways,
so
it's probably good for you in some way.
Yeah.
It gets you out of the house. You get to go swim or do whatever, and I don't know.
But so we've become disconnected with life and death cycles. It's because that's the way that life is, right? We don't kill our food. Right, back in the day, you'd have to kill your food. We don't kill our food.
We need to see that. I think.
I think it's important.
I've watched some of that crazy the chicken.
I've chopped a chicken head off before.
Okay. How did it go?
It was fine. Basically, I was at this farm where I was getting raw milk at.
Yeah.
And basically, what he would do is he would put the chicken head in this like little funnel, and you just cut it
Oh,
off,
boy.
and then it would just drain out. It wasn't bad.
Well, I mean, it's whether people think that's grotesque or not, it's what happens.
Yeah, that's what happens, right?
That's how it goes down.
You know what I mean? But like we don't see life cycles. Like it's why like people like that there's that Instagram page, Nature is Metal. And you see what like nature's like. You're like, it's brutal. But again, we don't see this stuff, and I don't know what it is. It's like people think that they're somehow going to live forever and that no one's going to die. I'm like, this is just what happens, and it's not a fun thing when people die. It sucks. Like I've lost people that are super close to me. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But that's life. And I think it's worth talking about like what is the number here? Like when is like because you're again, as we move things around, people die from, like I said, suicides.
Sure.
There's been some reports, and I've just read some of the basic stuff, so I haven't dug deep enough into them to really flesh out how true they are. But again, like different like things like the UN saying that like millions and millions and like hundreds of millions of people could be affected by starvation.
Yeah, because
over the next year.
Right?
Yeah, over the next year due to problems with like supplies and everything else. And so you think like, well, when is it too much?
Yeah.
When is it too much? And again, also you got to think about, again, I would be really interested because obviously there are young people that are getting sick.
Yeah.
But I would be so interested to see what is the rate of death with people with and without like excessive comorbidities.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then figure
and even youth, why like
And again, here's the thing. There's so many weird things going on right now. Like I have a friend in Seattle, and she has the COVID toes. Her toes swelled up, so she got the virus. But instead of getting like this upper respiratory thing, she's got swollen toes. I swear to God, it's a thing.
What?
Yeah, COVID toes. Look it up. So it's such a weird thing. So it manifests in people differently, and I think there's been some stuff where they said people like with strokes and stuff, it increases stroke.
Sure.
So nobody knows this thing. So wild.
I've heard that like maybe to some with blood clots too.
Yeah, blood clots,
like,
right?
You can get blood clots, and then that if that obviously a blood clot is not inherently, unless it breaks loose, and then bad things happen, strokes and your or whatever, bad things occur.
But so again, there's a lot of unknowns about it. But I think that again, going back to it because we got off on a tangent.
We always do.
Yeah. But going back to it, I think that trying to keep the classes small and segregated to where you say, okay, like we have these 10 people training, and that's group A. These 10 people training, that's group B, whatever. They train together with only that group at specific times, designated, and then that's the only times they can train, at least in the beginning, just to kind of ramp up, to limit the exposure to everybody else. But also, honestly, probably a good thing too, so that people, if we said that we could just go back to normal tomorrow, people would probably like overtrain too much.
Sure.
They'd probably like train every day and then get themselves injured. But like say like, listen, we're gonna let you train like 2 days a week just to get started, and then just kind of work from there.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're looking at days, but what about how would you group people, and how would it be appropriate or inappropriate, like by belt rank, by size, by just time, purely time?
When can you come in? Because I can't say, well, hey, sorry, white belt, like I've already got or hey, black belt, hey, sorry, black belt, you can't train at this time because I've already got too many people, right? I've just got to figure out the times because that's really what.
You want good training, and you don't want like a white belt be with like 6 purple belts and 2 brown belts and a black belt.
The focus that I was going to do, and this is my plan with this, is that whenever we are able to start rolling, or whenever we decide to start rolling, I'm going to take like a collection of people that are interested in training. And again, I'm going to encourage them, like, if you are nervous or fearful, do not train. It's okay. I understand. I make no judgment, right? Don't train if you're fearful or nervous. If you're okay though, sign up for this thing, give me your time that you can train, and then I'll start to assign groups to people, but give me the available times that you can train, and then we'll make it happen.
So Chewy, a big thing for me and for a lot of people is like I feel like not having control of it's hard. Not having control breeds like fear and anxiety and stuff. So things that people can do, and we talked about this earlier as well. There's common sense things that people can do to take care of themselves and make sure they decrease their risk of getting sick, or making sure their immune system is functioning as well as possible, so they do naturally can protect themselves. What are, we talked about, what are some of the suggestions you got for that?
Oh my gosh. There's a lot.
Start from the. Yeah, there's a lot.
Well, first off, let's talk about this loss of control. That in itself just creates stress and anxiety, which is just murderous on your body.
Sure.
So
controlling stress.
If you understand, like, your body does not deal with stress. It doesn't disseminate what's real stress, what's perceived stress, or any of that stuff. So when you get stressed, it just wreaks havoc on your body. Period. So you don't want to get too obsessed on all the stuff you don't have control of. I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy. So for those of you listening, like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, these guys, Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus are probably my favorite, because those dudes were kind of like, they lived it a little bit more. Seneca he had some good writings, but sometimes anyway. But Stoic philosophy, one of the biggest things is like, focus on what you have control over. The stuff you don't, what can you do? You can't do anything about it, and so worrying about it is silly. And so you see people, again, like, for instance, just this morning, I made a post on Instagram, and then I was kind of scrolling a little bit, and I just see these people arguing, right? And it seems like such a crapshoot, because first off, if you're arguing with someone, there's no way you can possibly get someone to come over to your side. If you have a discussion with people, maybe, I had a discussion with a nurse in Georgia who gave me some perspectives that I did not really think about, and again, he swayed me a little bit towards his end a little bit, right?
Which was
nothing crazy, just sharing his experiences, and so then anyway, but you could have spent that time, instead of arguing on the internet or getting upset about something that someone posted, and go read a book, go work on a skill, right? We've been locked up since, I'll say locked up too. It's really prison. Been locked up since March, right? So if we've been locked up, March, right? Since March.
When did y'all close the gym? 13th.
13th, my birthday.
I remember that day.
Birthday. So March 13th we closed. In that time, you could have started learning how to play a guitar and start playing songs and stuff. Imagine how much you could have been playing guitar. You could have been freaking serenading your girlfriend or your boyfriend with your guitar skills, right? I remember I played guitar for like a month, and I was already able to strum chords and stuff. So imagine you in this time that you had, you could have focused on something and learned something, right? So again, that's the way that I look at those things. It's like, with this time spent, what did you get from it? I've been working on a ton of different stuff related to my vocation and everything else. Anyway, so again, focus on what you can do, and I think there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. And I think that doing something where you take control of the situation, whether that's, even if it's not necessarily fixing the situation with the coronavirus or whatever it is, at least you have some control, which again gives some sort of sense of accomplishment, and it kind of helps deal with stress, right? Now beyond that, again, you want to keep your immune system strong, so it's doing some exercise, huge. Besides the immune system, as far as your overall mental health, exercise is incredibly important. The studies that they've done where they compare exercise with drugs, exercise is right there with it.
Sure.
You got to get off your butt and do it. But again, hey, what's it worth to you? You go for a little short run, or a nice long walk, or sling a kettlebell around a little bit, or do some yoga or something. Again, you can just look up some stuff online.
There's plenty of stuff out there. Plenty of stuff that you can find. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy or too intricate. Just get out and move, I think, is the main thing.
Yep.
You sit around too long, things are going to stiffen up, tighten up.
Oh yeah.
I speak from experience. I was working on my computer for a bunch of hours, and then I tried to go get a quick lift in, and I didn't bridge that. I didn't transition that gap, man. I just went straight from one to the other, and I gave myself enough time, and I hurt myself. So I got injured. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness jiu-jitsu isn't back yet, because I wouldn't have been able to go. Now I feel better. But, so it's good to, like you said, it's good to pick up a skill, or, learn something new, but also get that exercise and get that physical movement in.
Yep. Your diet. So again, this is all stuff you should be doing anyway. But again, if you're that worried about a damn virus taking you out, right? Your diet's incredibly important. What you put into your body is going to be a direct reflection of how that damn thing runs. Your body is a biological machine. It's a beautiful thing. And if you give it junk fuel, imagine having a race car out there and you start putting like, regular unleaded fuel into it. The damn thing's not going to run very well. You got to give it better fuel. It's the same thing with your body. If you put junk fuel into your body, don't expect it to run well, right? If you've got to for a lot of people, they have to suck down coffee and caffeine like it's going out of style because their diets are so poor. They eat tons of sugar. Your insulin's going all over the place. And again, that's one of the things that they have seen. Again, it's not the only reason people get it, but one of the biggest contributing factors of this thing is people's unhealthy lifestyle. Right, so you've got diabetes and you've got high blood pressure and you're overweight, obese. Yeah. These things are big contributing factors to whether or not this thing really does damage on you. Opposed to maybe get you sick or a little bit. Whatever.
Yeah, and I think obviously the comorbidities are a big factor. You see, and age is obviously a factor as well. But
Sure.
If you're like somebody that has high blood pressure and you're a diabetic and you've got just even autoimmune issues, whatever that is. I mean, like. Some of those things are not able to be controlled, but I mean, a lot of it you can at least
and some of them even some of the autoimmune stuff you can manage it with diet.
Right, managing, yeah.
So again, it's super friggin' important, and a big part of diet too. And this is something I would encourage people not to jump into is alcohol, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like people just.
It's a great point, by the way.
Alcohol, whether you want to admit this or not, it's friggin' poison. It is what it is. A little bit every now and then, not fine. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like I'll have a glass of bourbon every now and then. I'll have a beer from time to time, a glass of wine, whatever. But it's not a nightly thing, right? It's maybe a once a week thing. Again, maybe you want to drink more than that. And that's okay. Just understand that everything has consequences. I was writing a post the other day in my journal, and I was talking about how like the body has it. Like, remember the movie Forrest Gump?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you can tell a lot about the people by their shoes, where they've been, where they're going, right, that kind of thing. Well, you can tell a lot about people by their bodies. What have they done? Where are they going, right? When you look at, for me, like when I look at someone, and again, maybe this is wrong, but when I look at someone that's like like a jiu-jitsu guy, you look at them, they typically have their back is a little bit more flared out. Their back muscles typically are overdeveloped in relation, like their lats especially are overdeveloped.
A lot of pulling. They do a lot of
pulling, right? So they got biceps and lat muscles. Their neck's a little bit thicker. A wrestler, same thing, big thick neck, strong legs, mangled ears, all these things, mangled hands. I say mangled, but just slightly deformed parts of our body for the sport that we do. And even like you look at those people, and there's something about that I appreciate because it's through adversity that people kind of figure out who they are. And I'm like, you probably have a better read on yourself than some people do because some people haven't put themselves through the ringer. Not to say that that's the only way you can face adversity, because again, even if you do a not physical task, like let's say you're an artist and you're drawing you're making a work of art and you're dealing with that whole thing, or if you're a writer and you're dealing with adversity there, you're still figuring out who you are 100%. But you can see it on people's body. Right, like you can see the sort of the remains of what once was. Right, like I have scars on my face, and I can tell you each one of those stories, and I can tell you the stuff that I went through. And so, I think that people's body, like what your choices have consequences. Right, like they tell a story about it, and they choose how you're living your life and everything else. And again, you have to be cognizant of those. I mean, it's like. Again, it's one of those things where I hope this thing is maybe kind of a wake-up call to some people. Like, look, like you can eat McDonald's all you want to, but things get bad sometimes, and if you're really overweight, it's not going to be good for you. And again, maybe they won't. Then you have people like, like again, like, and I know where they are, but like you have all the smoke shops and that, like alcohol stores are all essential. They're all open, because you don't want people to detox off of it. You got to keep them healthy, or got to keep them there so they don't detox and have to go to the hospital.
Well, I think that when you talk about even an artist, they're testing themselves, and in jiu-jitsu we test ourselves every day. And that's part of it. When you test yourself, you do difficult shit, your body gets used to doing difficult things, or being able to overcome or deal with difficult situations. So, for us, jiu-jitsu is kind of like, it's a way for us to test ourselves, obviously, mentally, physically, emotionally. Sometimes you have, jiu-jitsu can it tests you. And I think like, if you're constantly just going through life without testing yourself, you're not going to be a resilient person.
Yeah, and where I was, because I got lost because I do that. I go on tangents. Where I was kind of going with that is, it's like if you start lifting weights and you make a consistent habit of lifting weights, your muscles get bigger, right?
Yeah.
If you go for a run, like your cardiovascular system gets a little bit stronger, right? If you do all these different things, there's little minor improvements. If you sit around and booze up every night, right? If you eat really bad food every night, right? There's consequences, and
Sure.
there's things that are going to be left behind from that. And I think, one of the things that's left behind from bad choices is poor health. So I think, your diet and the way what you put into your body is incredibly important, especially like right now when you want your immune system to be as strong as it possibly can be. It's super, super important. So that's one.
What about transitioning? So let's talk about maybe transitioning to training. To make that transition as smooth as possible, in your opinion. I've got some opinions, from the physical therapy side as well. But like, what do you think would, some tips maybe as far as transitioning back to the mat from people that haven't trained at all, or maybe even who haven't even done much of anything during this time? Like, what's a safe way, or maybe a safe way to transition and get the most out of training, even though it's a limited capacity?
I mean, as far as getting out of the most out of training, I won't get that far yet, because it's like, the big thing is just get back in there. Just getting back in there, that'll be a good start, right?
Sure.
As far as getting back in there, I would say just train maybe do a couple days a week.
Yeah, and that's all that's available.
But for most people, it's just going to depend on the situation, because everybody's doing this differently. Some gyms are saying, screw it, we're just opening. Some gyms are doing solo drills and stuff like that with like mats blocked off.
Yeah. Any benefit to that?
It's better than nothing. You'd have the camaraderie benefit because you could see people. That's not a bad thing.
Maybe they can push you a little bit.
They could push you a little bit, and just being around other people that you miss and stuff like that would be a good thing. As far as like long-term jiu-jitsu benefit, it's not jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and to me, think about risk reward, right? Well, you're risking, you're being around people. Yeah. Do you know if it's safe? Well, I'd rather just be, training.
I think that. And
so I don't know. Is it worth it to me? Personally, training as long as I've trained, I want to see people, but I don't want to see them and be like, I can't touch you. Like, if we're training, we're training.
Yeah.
I think if you're someone newer to jiu-jitsu, I think it's good. It may, I think now thinking about it, it may be a good way to build habit. Getting to the gym, getting dressed in your gi or your no gi stuff, train in that capacity. So I think they're maybe building a habit wise for somebody that's new to jiu-jitsu. I think that I can see some merit and some benefit in that aspect.
Maybe, yeah. I think it's one of those things where, we're doing solo drill classes and Zoom classes, and we're doing everything that we can to try to replace the thing that we can't do.
You can't replace touching someone.
Which you can't replace.
Can't replace choking someone.
And again, I know that there's been back and forth on the mask thing. To me, if you're in like a gym where people are grunting and breathing and perspiring, all that stuff, it's like, man, so are those masks
body
really?
Body fluid, man.
Yeah.
If my sweat falls into your eyeball.
Even if I go to like a fitness center and some dude's over bench pressing, like grunting and stuff, and again, nobody really wears their masks like over their, like they're completely over their face, sealed anyway.
Do you see how people wear their
with their nose hanging out and like everything else? It's just like what are you guys doing? And then like if some guy's over there and again it's not completely sealed, I'm sure it'll catch some, but again that stuff's going to linger indoors for a while. So again, I get what we're trying to do. We're trying to basically tiptoe in the water to see what happens, but it's like I feel like. And again, I'm not an expert, but I just feel like sometimes we're like, what are we doing?
Well, I'd like to think we're doing our best, but it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you sit back and you're like, does this really make sense?
I think that a lot of times, for me, like politicians, for instance, right now they're in an impossible position because you have people that have been cold to be on one side or the other, right? There really is. There are people in the middle, but everybody's like taking their stance on one side. Like if I made a post recently where I was just talking about I had like hoped everything went well for the guy that opened his gym, and I got called all kinds of stuff from people
for what?
Just because because the guy opened up his gym in a low hit area, and I was like, hey, and basically I was in support of it. I was like, man, I hope everything goes well. Hope you're doing all right.
You're supporting your community,
yeah,
and your community is jiu-jitsu.
But it's not that. But the thing is people they will sort of say, well, then you're for someone dying or something. But anyway, I got called all kinds of names, right, and all this stuff, right, unintelligent, stupid, whatever. But so the thing is like, where was I going? What were we talking about?
I don't know, man.
I don't know,
We're all
man.
over the place on this one.
I think what we're going to do is we're probably going to have I thought about this while we're doing this. We're going to do like a second little mini episode for people. So this way, if they don't want to listen to the coronavirus episode, they can just listen to the other episode later on and release it the same day. But no, see but yeah, so like again with the politicians, they're in an impossible position.
Yeah,
because
you're talking about picking sides.
Because what happens is, so let's say right now that let's say the politician, like deeply, whatever they are, wanted to open. I mean, let's do it. Let's open. He couldn't because he has a public that says that that's not the right thing to do. Okay. Well, let's say that he didn't want to open because he's like, it's not a smart idea. He has a public that wants to open.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like either way he's screwed. So because again, it's going to be one of those things where, each one of these guys is a politician. Their career is looking good in front of the public, right? I mean, this is why you have these, and again, all this stuff comes back later on. So if one of these guys starts to work towards a career later on, it's so dumb to me. Like someone, whenever he's running against someone, they're going to bring something up from his past, and they'll be like, "Did you see when Governor Bob John let X amount of people die during the coronavirus? Vote for me." But basically that stuff's there. So these guys are politicians. They're career people that want to look good in front of the public, most of them. And so again, for them to take a hard step and say screw it, like I mean, the guy in Georgia, the governor in Georgia was just like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And people are just like crucifying the dude. Again, maybe it's the wrong decision, maybe it's the right decision. I don't know.
You have to be willing. Here's the one thing about like politicians standing in a certain position and then maybe changing their minds. I used to be like, oh, well, see, you were on the wrong side. You did this, or you were wrong back then. I'm not going to vote for you. Now I'm like, what's a smart person to me? A smart person is one that finds the information, learns from it, is willing to admit, sometimes they don't admit fault, but is willing to at least change their mind because, well, the information is
absolutely
new. Like that is a smart, like Chewy, you made it, you said like you support this guy, whatever. Based on what you knew, you supported him.
Sure.
And, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. Who gives a shit? But if you're like, look, based on the knowledge that I had, and it's like you made this decision. This is your decision forever.
Yeah.
No, a smart person is someone's willing to learn and knows that they don't know everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's like, I mean, to me, I don't know about you, but I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago.
No,
right? And I would think I always see that with the politicians, like they call them flip floppers and stuff like that. Like, or they'll like say, "Well, see, back then he thought this." I'm like, I don't think any of the same stuff just about since I was 20, right? I mean, like 10 years ago, like I had a completely different view of everything. It's like I would be afraid of a person that has thought the same thing. But again, with these politicians, their career, like was it Tulsi Gabbard or something was talking about, like when she got into like to into the Senate or whatever. Was it her?
I'm not sure.
She's talking about like when she got into office, like basically they were telling her, listen, keep your head down, don't do much. Like don't do anything, right? Like because basically like you don't do anything for the first X number of years, and then whatever. So so basically
you play the game basically.
Yeah, basically a lot of these politicians, it's like their job is to just kind of go under the radar, so to speak, and then always try to look good. So it's like, when they make a hard call, they don't really want to do it because, they don't want to look bad. They don't want that stuff to come back and bite them later on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So again, it's one of those things where all these politicians are in an impossible position based upon their career, where their career is they want to look good in front of the public for the long term. And if they open up too quickly, even if people are going to that regard, they're going to be like, oh, the one side's going to be like, look how many people died because he opened, right? Or because she opened. Then flip it around.
Yeah.
If they don't open fast enough, then the other side goes, see how many businesses went down because they didn't open fast enough. So they're screwed one way or the other.
Yeah.
And there's not an easy way to deal with this thing. And so again, this is where I'm in the middle. Like I feel I don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's Armageddon. And I think that a lot of people are in really tough positions. But at the same time, I think that at some point you have to be like, look, we gotta risk life rather than being locked up. Mm. You know what I mean? Because again, I think the long-term ramifications from that, and people haven't really felt them yet. This is the reality of it. Like people haven't. I mean, some people are starting to because unemployment and things like that. But a lot of people have not felt the impact of this thing that could come later on if things don't get going. Because again, most people still are just kind of hanging out at home, screwing around on their iPhones. Right? Life is still okay. Like you're locked up, but basically you're doing what you're doing already. You were doing already, minus working and stuff like that.
Now you're just getting paid for sitting at home.
Exactly. But give it a little while when the unemployment check stops, when there is no more funding coming, and then they actually start charging you for your rent and for your mortgage again, and you don't have any money to pay it, then you got a problem, right? And I think this is the thing that, like, for instance, business owners feel, because, you know, especially the ones like us that didn't get any money in funding, we still got bills to pay. And I think that we're feeling what's going to happen down the road for other people. They just haven't felt it yet. And that's when all of a sudden you're going to get more of an, like, I think if it continues, if it starts to subside, great. But if it continues, you're going to see more people come up in arms because they're getting pinched. You know, and I think that's a problem. And I think that a lot of people just don't understand that. Like, if they're not feeling it right now, they have trouble sort of being empathetic towards other people's plight. But once they start feeling the pinch, you know, that has a way. Like, there's a thing in history where you'll see this commonly over and over and over again. When things really go down is when people's pocketbooks get hit, right? Like, you know, all kinds of stuff can happen, but when you start taking money away from people and their ability to put food on the table and their ability to live with some level of comfort, when that goes away, revolutions happen. When that goes away, people start to get really angry and actually start to band together. But when things are okay, you know, it's okay. We'll get back to it later on.
It's an illusion.
You know? Yeah. So I think it's one of those things, man. I don't, like I said, this is probably the worst episode of the podcast because we went in here with an idea to talk about and we've rattled off on different angles.
I think we've got some pretty good points. And I think if you know, like, our whole thing is like, have some nuggets, take some nuggets away. And I think, you know, the main things are how we hope or anticipate gyms reopening, what you can do to keep yourself as safe as possible. And, I mean, then we just talk politics.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, we just kind of, I think we're coming from a place where our intentions are good. Yeah. Like, we want to be together. We want to do what we love doing. We want to train. And I think guys like you and other guys in the city that own gyms that want to get things moving, I think, sure, it's financial. Sure, it's you know, it's your life that you're trying to get back, you know, or keep going. But again, some of it's, you know, we also miss people. We miss training. We miss jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu. And I think a lot of it's about missing jiu-jitsu. And so, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just like I think we're just starting to reach a point where it's just like, okay, like, we've done the thing. Let's move on.
And one thing I would encourage you guys to do is don't immediately go on the offensive and be emotional, right? Like, so when you get online, if someone makes a post about it, and again, whatever side of the fence you're on, right? If you're fuming right now at me, or if you're like, yeah, go Chewy or whatever. But if you get online and someone makes a post about something, especially people you know and things like that, don't lash out at them. If you have a difference of opinion, speak it. Speak it as if you were speaking it to that person's face, one-on-one. Because that's the thing about online. People don't talk to each other like they do face-to-face, right? Because those people, like I said, they were talking to me like that, they would have never said it to my face, right? Mm-hmm. Talk to people face-to-face. One, because if you actually have a valuable opinion, like an opinion worth valuing, more people will be willing to hear you if you voice it in a reasonable manner, right? And if you want to actually bring someone over, it ain't happening unless you open the door for them, right? This is a basic idea. If you come at someone, they're going to draw a line in the sand. Even if you make an opinion that makes sense to them, they're not going to accept it because they're going to be pushed back because they're on the defensive. But if you speak your opinions and allow discourse to happen back and forth, much better place to be. And again, to me, it reminds me back in 2009, I think it was, there was the H1N1. Remember that? So I remember the news said that was going to be like a terrible thing and people were going to die and you need to get vaccinated and all that stuff. And I remember seeing, this is back in some of the early days of Facebook, and I remember seeing this argument on Facebook where these people were just yelling at each other online, calling each other every name in the book because one person said that, you know, this thing was going to be nothing, the other person said it was going to be something, and said that, you know, if whatever millions were going to die, this and that. So they went back and forth. And, you know, these were like people that lived in the same city, you know, that other something, they're arguing with each other. Like, and again, whether it ends up being nothing or something doesn't matter. It just matters that, like, again, we're all in this thing together, you know, and I think that it's worth, people are not always going to agree with you, and life would be really friggin' boring if they did. You know what I mean? So again, to me, that's one of the beautiful things about the country. Like for instance, there's hardcore people that think that friggin' the whole virus is a damn cell tower or something, right?
Oh man,
I know. Now listen,
can somebody explain
basically
that to me? I don't.
I watched one of the videos and I was like, I can't watch this. I watched about like 2 minutes of it.
I can't.
But regardless, I don't believe in it. But you know what? Whatever. Like it's your thing. Like
the more you know.
That's your thing. Some people think that this is that this is just a giant conspiracy. Cool. You do you. I mean, again, like if if the media can be permitted to put out misinformation, whenever they decide to, I think that people should have the freedom to say whatever the hell they want to too. And so I think that again, it's just one of those things where if someone doesn't agree with you or whatever, fine. If you don't really like them, unfollow them, stop looking at their stuff, but don't put that negative energy out there, because that's not good for in the situation that we're in. That's not what the world needs. That's not what we need. We don't need more people trying to yell at each other, especially your neighbors and things like that, and people that you're going to see. It'd be better off to just kind of
be willing. I mean, I've realized so.
Oops.
Be willing to learn from anyone. My wife gave me, like, we've been doing this thing with reading books. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll suggest a book and we'll read it, and then she'll suggest a book and we'll read it. And the one book I'm not even going to say what book it is, but it's from a female perspective. It's written for women.
50 Shades of Grey.
No, I'm not.
It's fine. Yeah.
I could tell you, it's called Untamed. I think Glennon Doyle. She's like, you want to read? You should. Like, I picked a book, and then she's like, and it's just about kind of like, in a way, finding yourself, be true to yourself kind of thing.
Sure. I
like reading books like that you are learning about yourself or learn how to be a better version, whatever. So in my opinion, I'm like, be willing to learn from anyone. Like, I'm willing to learn from anyone. When I was when I had students as a physical therapist, and I had like undergrad students that were going through school, I was like, I'd listen to them, and sometimes they have a different perspective. They have new schooling, and I try to
agree.
Yes, you have to muddle through some of them. But honestly, I'm willing to listen and learn from anyone. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to believe everything or take everything to heart that they say, but I don't know. This is a good time for conversation. It's a good time for learning from different people, and having different opinions about stuff is okay. Like you said, if you attack someone, they're going to get defensive. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, people that, speak to people like you would face to face. I mean, I think it's a great way to think about it.
Again, and like now there's some ideas where I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, but you're willing to listen, right?
Well, it depends. Like, I'm not, like, if someone's like hardcore racist or something like that.
Yes.
Again, I'm just drawing like
right.
because every time I say this kind of stuff, people will, in a conversation, well, what if he's racist? I'm like, of course I'm not going to listen
right.
to
that.
I'm talking about some sort of reasonable idea. We're talking
right.
about a reasonable idea. Like, I'm not going to listen to someone tell me something racist or say that a disease that's went across the world is nothing but 5G or something like that. Not going to really hear that one out too much. You know what I mean? Just because it's like, well,
yeah, I don't mean in that capacity.
Yeah, but if you have some reasonable ideas,
exactly,
I'll hear you out. And even sometimes with the conspiracy stuff that I don't agree with, I'll ask questions, because I'm like, well, like, okay, like I don't agree with you, so let me see if I can like let me ask questions, and one, it's kind of interesting.
Talk them into a corner, talk them off the edge, Chewy.
We'll just see,
a flat earther, if you will.
Just see, like tell me why you think these things. Sometimes I'm just curious.
It's obviously everything has got to be within reason. If somebody's a racist or just really, has a obviously very a bad opinion or bad stance. I mean, obviously you're not going to listen to. Yeah.
I just think it's worth approaching people. And again, with people that have opinions that I think are completely ridiculous, I simply just won't talk to them.
Yeah, you can filter the stuff that you get. Yeah. You can filter the information that you
like. Because there's been a lot of people that have I put in that ghost mode where you're not like, you're still technically friends online.
Yeah,
but you're unfollowing, so you don't have to see their stuff.
I did that.
I've done a lot of that stuff.
And I think sometimes you have to do that for your sanity, because you just can't keep seeing negative bullshit or even if it's not negative, it's just ridiculous stuff. I think there's a point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, guys. So that is the end of the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you're still here, you must have enjoyed it. Some of you guys might be fuming right now. Like, you're like, oh my God, Chewy, how dare you? how dare you talk about something that's not jiu-jitsu. It's funny, you know, how people, like, when you have a difference of opinion, how quickly they can turn. It's so funny. Because, see, I value people having different opinions. I don't dislike it. Like, when you have a different opinions, oh, we got something to talk about, right? Well, tell me why you think the way you do. But it's funny when you're on the internet, and I'm speaking from a position of, like, being what some people call an influencer, which I hate that term. I'm not that. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Like, I'm a coach. That's what I am. But when you're in that position, people become attached to you being one way, and then if you speak if you do something else, you know, whatever, they become very angry. You know.
Do you think that says something about them?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. It's 100% them. It's not me.
If you can, you know, still. You don't have to agree with someone, but you can value their opinion.
Sure.
Again, obviously there's always an end to that. Like,
sure.
there's a cutoff point, but I mean, I think that you're human. You're gonna have opinions. You're gonna ruffle feathers at times. You got people that are go Chewy. They're on the Chewy team. So, like, I think that it's good to have that. I think if you're always in the middle or you're not controversial, then nobody gives a shit about what you say.
This is true. But either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you guys are doing really well. I hope you're staying strong, staying healthy. And I hope that, you know, in a year from now, we can look back at this and just kind of put it behind us and stuff like that. But I do hope that you're doing well, because it's a difficult time mentally, physically, and financially for all of us. And so, again, I do mean that 100%. I hope you're doing well. And hopefully we'll be able to cross paths on the mat at some point in the near future. Guys, to end this episode, I just want to thank our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. They supply us with some CBD. I started using their products. Eugene started using their products. We brought them on the podcast. If you want to check out any of their stuff, high quality, super high quality stuff, you can go to Charlotte's Web and use a promo code Chewjitsu, save 15% on your order. Epic Roll BJJ, big thanks to Matt for sort of supporting the podcast. And again, if you want to get some of those jiu-jitsu shirts. I almost said Chewjitsu shirts. Jiu-jitsu shirts. You can check out some of the videos and some of the recent posts that I've had. People really like them, and you can check those out and get your own shirt at epicrollbjj.com. He also has some rash guards and stuff like that, and you can use the promo code Chewjitsu. And again, guys, you can join us on the Vault, or not the Vault, the Patreon, patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast. And if you want to get the Chewy Monday through Friday emails, you can check them out at chewjitsu.net, get some free jiu-jitsu ebooks and resources, and you can get some emails from me that are just, I mean, I'm happy that most of the people that I know that read them enjoy them. Like you know, friends of mine, they read my emails every morning. They're like, it's like part of their daily ritual. So again, hopefully you guys enjoy them. But guys, with that said, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time.